It's all about the Macro Productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles and Fort Lauderdale.
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Rumble, Bam.video, Vigilante TV, YouTube, now finally we're back, or you are listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate your amazing and continued support over the years. Macroaggressions.io is the website if you want to check in and connect with me. That's the best place to do it. You can find me on social media, on X, at Macroaggression, on Instagram, at Macroaggression_podcast. We appreciate our sponsors. They help to make this show happen. Above Phone has been with us for a while now. I've got my Above Phone right now in my hand. It's fantastic. I have to tell you a story. My wife had a dream, and in this dream, she decked out our car with Kansas City Chiefs accessories and gear, which is hilarious because we're in Denver. And she woke up next morning, told me this story. I thought it was funny. She told her mom that story a couple of days later. She told somebody else the story. And then what wound up happening was that on her phone, she was getting messages. She was getting advertising suggestions for Kansas City car emblems and things like that. So her phone was clearly listening to her tell this story about a hilarious dream that she had. And it's kind of funny when it's just that. But then, my little conspiratorial mind gets going and I go, damn, they're listening to everything. So big tech phones they're not just leaky, they give big tech companies, advertisers, and spyware firms first dibs at your data. They can install apps without even asking you, which can scan your phone with AI and even stop you from installing apps deemed unacceptable. Well, after that experience, I basically had enough. I stopped being their pawn. I started using Above Phone. I've got a fantastic one right here. You can check it out for yourself. They started in 2021. They've helped individuals, freedom groups, all kinds of people reclaim their privacy with high security phones, laptops, and communication services. It's the most secure and private phone that you can buy today. There's no need to sign into an account. You can use your own cell service, and you can still use most of the apps, in fact, with more control. You can even kick the big tech apps out onto a separate sandbox, like a mini isolated phone within your phone, okay? So whether you're protecting your financial investments or your Bitcoin, Above Phone is the right move. Not a techie like me, no problem. Help is just an email away, plus every device comes with a kickstart call with a real person, not AI. I called, got a real person, his name was Wizard, which kind of sounds like AI, but he wasn't. He was fantastic, and he helped me set up my phone. So if you're somebody that gets kind of, hung up on the technical side of things like I did, you don't have to worry about it. They'll take care of all that for you. Above Phone is going all in on Black Friday. They have phones and Linux laptops at deep discounts. Plus, get 1 month of free privacy services, including a VPN and an internet phone number. What you need to do, go to abovephone.com/activist post. That's abovephone.com/activist post. Act fast. Sales ending soon. Supplies are limited, all that good stuff. But you definitely want to check out Above Phone and get yourself one, especially heading into the holidays for somebody near and dear to you. Now, without further ado, enjoy my interview with the fantastic Doug Casey. Well, it's my great pleasure to welcome back to the show, Doug Casey. Boy, I would read off your list of accomplishments, Doug, but we only have a limited amount of time. It's good to see you again. How are you?
Fine and dandy. I'm in Buenos Aires. I just got in yesterday morning. It wasn't a bad trip, as it were, but I hate traveling just as a general rule. The less time that you can spend in a flying cigar tube, the better. And of course, there once was a time when flying itself was an adventure and civilized, but now it's mass transportation. Well, it's better than that when you fly Qatar or Emirates and a couple other airlines, but nothing in North America is a pleasure to fly, frankly.
My mom in the 60s was based in New York, and she was an international flight attendant with Pan Am. And that was back when it was a thing, and it was an elevated status. You behaved yourself on the airplane. You didn't show up in sweatpants and fight people in the lavatories. You got a 5-course meal brought down the aisle, and you could smoke in the back with it, just pull that drape across. And it's just a very bizarre turn of events. It feels very much like they don't want us traveling.
It does feel that way. And that was in the 60s when it was still upmarket and elegant. And of course, Pan Am was the top of the pecking order where the stewardesses, I know you're not supposed to call them stewardesses anymore for some reason, don't know what it could be, often wore white gloves. And when I was a kid and was flying from Chicago to Washington, D.C., they'd pass out 3-packs of cigarettes, including to us kids. Very nice. In fact, in the old days of the airline business, back when your mom was there, certainly working for Pan Am, my mom worked was a stew for United Airlines during World War II. And in those days, you had to be young, unmarried, good looking, and an RN. All of those qualifications. So it was nice.
I think about it, my mom was young, good-looking, single, living in New York, and she had worked as a nurse's assistant. So maybe she might have been qualified in that regard. But, it was one of those things that, there's so many signals and signs of the deterioration of our society. But the air travel industry, if you're old enough to remember what it used to be in comparison to what it is now, that contrast is just so stark, and it feels very end of empire-ish to me,
Yeah, and all the stews, instead of using it for a couple of years to travel, get to know the world, and perhaps meet an upmarket husband, they're all members of the Teamsters Union now, who treat being a flying waitress as a career option. I'm not trying to talk down to somebody's occupation. Any occupation where you're not working for the government is noble work, but it's different than it used to be.
Yeah. Traveling is the best education that I could have ever asked for. I had a dad who was a pilot and a mom who had been a flight attendant. And so I think that a lot of I saw a statistic that showed that 2/3 of Americans don't even have a passport, and that only 3% will ever leave the country during the course of a year. I feel like that sort of is I don't know. You spend a lot of time all over the world, but in Europe, right, you have Europeans who grow up understanding that, inter-country travel is just a thing. You get on a train and cross a couple borders and you're in a whole different culture. But for Americans, they just don't want to leave. I think that might be a problem as well, that you got to get out and see the world, see what's out there, right?
Americans are entirely too insulated. It's been said that war is nature's way of teaching Americans geography, because few things can get them out of the U.S. Of course, on the other hand, in the past, the U.S. Was the wealthiest, most stable, freest, many advantages being, which are no longer true. So you could say that in the past, why should Americans leave it? Because it was just delightful and everybody wanted to get in here. Of course, now everybody wants to get into the U.S. for different reasons than they did in those days. Things evolve, circle of life. But talking about the circle of life, I'm afraid that the U.S., which has changed itself into an empire, quite frankly, is on the slippery slope.
Yeah. And what's your number of countries you've been to now? What's that number at? I thought last I heard it was high.
It's over 150. I've got to count it up. Next week, I'm actually going to a new one that I haven't been to before, Azerbaijan.
You're going with Matt. That's right. I heard you guys talking about that.
Yeah, it's not on most people's radar screen. I'm going there because Azeri University is, for reasons that are unclear to me, I think they're giving me an honorary doctorate. So, I get to meet the president, big deal. Well, maybe it's a big deal. I have no idea. And get my degree. So I figured, well, okay, this is an opportunity to take an all-expense-paid trip to someplace I've never been before.
Why? Absolutely. Are you going to Baku? Is that the word?
Yes, I am.
But,
we're driving about 5 hours across the country, which will be interesting, to where the university is. So
oil and gas, big player there, yeah, for Azerbaijan.
About 60% of the national income is still oil and gas, because 150 years ago, it was, not only was the first oil well in the world drilled in Azerbaijan, in Baku, but was the world's largest producer then, and it's still a big producer today. So for what it's worth.
Interesting. I would think that would get it on other countries' radars as far as a country that needs to be conquered and have some democracy spread on it or something.
Well, they've certainly had some dust-ups with their neighbors, primarily the Armenians. There's a land dispute between the Armenians and the Azeris. And interestingly, I haven't really done adequate research on the background of the country, but apparently about 80% of the Azeris, about 10 million people in Azerbaijan, but 80% of them are actually across the border in Iran because of some treaty that was signed, a conquest by Russia or whatever. So it's part of the Caucasus, and that's never been, and I'm not sure ever will be, a peaceful region.
No. There's always some dispute going on, and that sounds like a great trip. That'll be fun. It'd be on my list of things. I had a roommate of mine who lived in Kazakhstan for a few years doing oil, and I said, "What? Kazakhstan? Is it worth going?" He said, "Oh, it's the hidden jewel. The most beautiful women in the world are there." I thought, "Whoa, really?" I've never known, and so he kind of turned me on to Central Asia. I said, "Well, if you get a chance, go out there. You might be surprised." I haven't had a reason to go yet, but it sounds like getting an honorary doctorate's a pretty good reason to get on a plane and go and meet the president. Though that sounds like fun.
Well, I don't know if anybody remembers Harry Schultz, who was one of the deans of the newsletter business back in the old days. And Harry used to list all these honorary doctorates that he got and knighthoods and all kinds of crap like that, none of which means anything to me, quite frankly. I say as I'm going there.
Right.
But it's an all-expense-paid junket, so why not? But Harry used to pick up these things all the time, and was quite proud of them.
That's funny. Well, I've got your new book, The Preparation. I'm going to hold it up for anybody who's viewing this. It's like a workbook. This is Doug Casey, Matt Smith, and Matt's son, Maxim Smith. This is the best book I have bought in the last 10 years.
Oh, I'm very flattered. Thank you, Charlie.
It is I'm going to say the same thing to you that you and Matt said to Maxim. This is the greatest idea I've ever seen. I would have loved to have gone through this program when I was his age. He's going to be set up for success. And so I want to just talk to you about this. What is the book? Well, for the audience, what is the book? And why did you read it? Or why did you write it? I mean, you've written plenty of books. You've written books that are fiction, nonfiction. This is a departure, though. This is totally different. And this is a blueprint for how to become a Renaissance man. If you have kids that are in high school and you are reimagining education, or you think that maybe college used to be one way, and I don't know if it's got the value that it had when I was there or when you were there or whatever, I would like to maybe try something different and get some life experiences. Boy, you got to get this book. Can we just talk a little bit about how it came about?
Yeah. I was on the Donahue Show for a full hour by myself in 1980, the day before the national elections, when Reagan was running against Carter. And the Donahue Show was proportionally even bigger than Oprah back in those days. And there were 2 times on that show when the audience, which was generally favorably inclined towards me, booed me, which was unusual, because we're not talking about the Jerry Springer show. We're talking about, in any event, what did they boo me for? Well, one of the reasons was it was the day before the national elections, and I said I wasn't voting the next day. Well, that was one thing, obviously. The other was that I said that I was sorry that I misallocated 4 years of my time and a bunch of my parents' money to go to college. And the audience was flummoxed to hear this. Now, why did I say that? Because even back then, this is 1980, college was already turning into a cesspool. And since then, it's gotten much, much worse than it was in those days. The professors are all Marxists, woke. It's terrible. There are 4,000 colleges in the U.S., and most of them should be flushed. You're paying a huge amount of money, generally, where you have to take out big loans, which you did not have to do in those days, in order to be indoctrinated for 4 years and have your mind corrupted. Because the thing is, when you're out of high school, just graduated from high school, you don't know anything. Your mind is still a tabula rasa. And college, being put on a pedestal the way it is, you naturally take everything that these august professors say to you as being doctrine, as being the truth. And even if it doesn't make any sense, it warps your mind, and all the other kids take it in, and everybody believes the same thing, because who wants to be the black sheep, frankly? So the bottom line of this, Charlie, is that I wanted to write this book for some years to point out that college, especially today, didn't used to be this way 100 years ago. Different story, totally. We can talk about why it was a different story. But certainly increasingly in the years since World War II, it's a silk-lined indoctrination camp, which ruins you in so many ways for the future, and even worse, puts you in debt for that, and even worse, takes the 4 best years of your life when you should be turning yourself into a Renaissance man, or in my case, a non-military soldier of fortune. And you're not really learning anything that's useful. And worse than that, I'm sorry, I'm going on now.
Please do.
Most people's experience in college, unless you take a STEM course and you're serious about science, technology, engineering, math, but that's only about 15% of college kids that do those. You're taking soft subjects full of opinions by the wrong kind of people with the wrong kind of opinions. We're talking courses like sociology and psychology and English, which is maybe the worst of all the departments, history, which is a wonderful thing to learn, but not generally from the kind of people that teach it with their own slant. So what happens? You're up late partying the night before. Maybe you cut the class entirely. You go to class, you fall asleep. If you don't fall asleep, your mind is wandering. And even if you try to take notes, chances are your notes aren't good, and maybe you won't even read them. And so what the professor's saying is going in one ear and out the other. What useful purpose does that serve? So what we've done in this book, so what I've just said are things that I think most people intuitively know. But what we've done in this book is lay out a path for people. Precisely what should you do during those 4 years? And there are lots of things to learn, but that'll improve you intellectually and morally and physically, all of this, and skill-wise. So that's what the book is there, to show young men exactly what they should be doing or could be doing during that 4-year period of time. That's,
and then
that's all.
You break it up in two main parts. Foundational ideas starts with that. Let's get a hold of this. You got to have some concepts here. You have to learn about money, what it is, what it isn't, things like that. And then you move into part 2, actionable strategies. This is where you start to talk about the cycles, the 16 cycles. I went through college. I went through 4 years. Well, it took me 5 years. I took a year off in between. 4 years of college. Couldn't tell you what I learned, really. Problem solving, maybe. How do I pass this class without reading the books or things like that? So, very, hard to quantify what I got from that. Took a look at what I went to USC. Took a look at what USC costs per year now. It's over $70,000 a year.
Wow.
Private university in Los Angeles. Then you add on expenses on top of that. But you are in it for $250,000 just to go there for 4 years now, if you don't have financial aid or things like that. I can't envision a scenario in which I would be better off starting my life with $250,000 of debt. There's no scenario in which that makes me better prepared. I also have to make decisions based on how am I going to repay this debt. I have to take a job from General Motors, who I don't want to work for them, but I have to because they're, whatever. So there's a lot of ways that this can go. But if you were to instead, invest the time of those 4 years into learning skills that would make you completely hireable in just about any line of work that you wanted to do, this would be the book to do it. This is the book that teaches you actual skills. And I want to talk to people about, I just want to break, you tell us about the cycles. 16 cycles, 3 months each.
Yes. We broke the 4 years into 16 quarters. We call them cycles. And at the same time, as you're taking courses in hard sciences, because what you can learn online is much better than you get face-to-face in a university, because I'm a big fan, for instance, of the teaching company. They get world-class professors that put on command performance lectures in every subject under the sun. And of course, not only are they great lectures, which is by no means the case when you go to most colleges, but you can listen to them again in case you miss something or want to hear it again. So while you're doing these 16 quarters, you're listening to lectures in all the great subjects: history, astronomy, chemistry, English literature, what have you. So you get a complete education, both in a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science, not just one, plus basically an MBA, which we've tied in there too. So you get business understanding of accounting, the legal system, management, marketing, what have you, sales even. So you cover that base, but the essence of this is the cycles, each one of which you go into the field to learn something hands-on. Now, in the case of Maxim, who's one of my co-authors, and Matt Smith's son, he got himself an EMT license, emergency medical technician. Took him a couple of months, but that qualified him to work as an EMT, and he got a job as an EMT on firefighting teams in the West. There are fires all the time. They need EMTs. He was earning $600 just out of high school, basically, earning $600 a day net because they covered his room and board. So that goes right to the bottom line. To be an EMT and picking up more skills in the process out in the woods. So now he's financially ahead of the power curve. What do you do next? Well, maybe you're going to employ that money to, we suggest, going to Canada for a month and taking a welding school so that you learn everything about metalworking. Very practical skill, high-paying job, incidentally, if you know how to do that. That could be your second cycle. Your third cycle, we might send you to Florence, Italy, where you will take a month's course to become a professional chef. This is something that every young man should know how to do, prepare an elegant meal. I'm not saying you want to become Gordon Ramsay or Wolfgang Puck or one of these guys, but you could if you want to, and you know how it works in restaurants and kitchens. And from there, we might send you to Thailand for 3 months this time to practice Muay Thai and become a competent fighter, get into the best condition of your life and really learn martial arts skills. So you can see what we're doing here. We're covering all the bases so that no matter where you go, even if you were airdropped into the Congo, into a small village, you'd have skills of many types that could carry you into, well, like a home building course.
Right.
That would be a month course, perhaps with the Shelter Institute, where from building the foundation to putting in the plumbing, wiring, framing, you know how to build a house. Well, this is very valuable when later in life, maybe you don't want to be a contractor, but you'll be able to tell what's a properly built house from one that's not so properly built and do it yourself if you wish. Anyway, these 16 cycles cover all these bases. And there's other things. We make sure that you learn to scuba dive, at least. We make sure that you learn to fly a plane. Well, we make sure that you have skydived, which is a valuable experience. Doesn't have any economic value, obviously, but still worthwhile. So I think you're getting the picture of what we're trying to do in addition to a classical education.
Yeah. And within each of these cycles, there's an anchor course, there's an academic core classes, and there's reading that goes along with it. And all what I really like about this, because it's hard to call this just a book. I would more refer to it as a workbook. There's a lot of information in here. So it's one thing when you say, all right, well, you want to be a builder, we'll do the builder course. You mentioned a 2-week design build course from Shelter Institute. Well, how much is that going to cost me? Oh, well, it's going to cost $5,000. You wrote it there. And then there's a QR code that someone can scan and they can go there and find out. So you didn't just generalize, you might want to go here and do this thing. You're going to Fairbanks, Alaska to learn to fly. Here's the place you're going to go to learn to fly. Here's how much it costs. Here's the scan. Here are all the books you're going to read. Here's all the courses you're going to listen to, and then reflection and account. So this is not just generalizations. This is so specific. And of course, maybe somebody says, I can't go to work at this place for Shelter Institute, but I found a similar place, I don't know, on the other side of the country that I'll go there. Fine, whatever. I get the feeling that some of these are sort of interchangeable. I don't know, you don't necessarily have to learn to fly in Fairbanks, Alaska, but you're going to learn to be a pilot. So this is not just...
See, what we're trying to do, you could learn to fly in your hometown in a small airfield. They're all over the place. But the reason why we chose something in Fairbanks is we're trying to get you to travel and see totally different areas with totally different people that think totally different ways. So that's the idea for preferring to go to Fairbanks. Although Maxim, who's completing his private pilot's license now, incidentally, is doing that in Uruguay. So that by the time you finish this course, you're not just a hothouse plant who's sat in a desk, behind a desk for 4 years listening, qualifying yourself for nothing but being retrained to work in a cubicle. You've already been to a half a dozen countries and a lot of states, so that you're kind of worldly wise by the time you finish this course.
Yeah, I had to laugh because I mentioned to you earlier on that my dad was a pilot. He learned to fly in Fairbanks, Alaska. Yeah, I didn't know this was the place to go to learn to fly, or maybe it isn't. But the idea that you would pick these different locations geographically spread out across the world is fantastic. What about being a cowboy?
Yeah, I think that's a good one, actually. The Smiths and I are both fans of Louis L'Amour, who was best known for writing pulp fiction novels, but he's very philosophically sound. And what qualified him to write those novels is the fact he'd done all this stuff himself. That gave him the boots on the ground qualifications to write novels about everything, including being a cowboy. A lot of his novels are Westerns. And I'm a fan of horses. I've learned to ride them and played polo for years. And being a cowboy, working with big animals and doing the kind of stuff that real cowboys do, I think it's a very valuable thing.
Yeah.
Just like that's one thing, being a cowboy or a rancher. The other thing is learning to be a farmer, if you can. We try to get you into Joel Salatin's apprenticeship program, where basically you live there on his farm and you learn farming, not just wheat or corn, but all kinds of stuff, chickens, hogs, and cows. So you've got a grip, which will help you if you trade commodities in the future, for sure. But you'll actually know what farming's about, which the average kid doesn't. He thinks that milk comes out of a carton.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too.
I saw Joel at Acapulco earlier this year. I watched his presentation. I mean, he's fantastic. It'd be one thing to just work on any old farm, but to go work for Joel Salatin and learn what he's doing over at Polyface Farm, that would be it's like a graduate course. I mean, that guy is, he's seeing things that nobody's talking about. He's got balls on him too. I mean, he was talking about some very important things at a time when it was important to talk about them. I have a lot of respect for Joel Salatin. I've had him on our group show before. I've never, and I started writing books and doing podcasts about conspiracies and things like that. I never thought I would ever have a farmer on my show at all. I must have had a dozen of them on so far. It's turned out to be one of the most important components that I never really thought about. I mean, I didn't think that milk came from a carton, but I wasn't too far away. You know, my relationship with food is detached, of course, being an American and dependent on just-in-time delivery and farming. You know, the farming system is like, if you're in a city, it doesn't even exist to you. So what a great education do you imagine interviewing some guy and he says, you ask him like, what have you done? Like, tell me what's on your resume. And he lists all these things. I went to Fairbanks, became a pilot, learned how to build a house, became a chef. And I mean, you hire him. You have to hire him to run the company. You would hire him to work underneath you.
That's right. And the other thing is this course, I mean, so much of college is oriented towards young men should get a job. Wait a minute, get a job? That's really kind of a degrading concept. What you should be training yourself to do is be an entrepreneur and provide jobs, hire other people, not be hired by them.
Right.
I mean, to put you at cause over the way the world works, not the effect of other people's causation.
Yeah.
So that's a big point too.
Yeah, and I kind of come out of a lot of this philosophy of those who can do, those who can't teach. Let's be honest. I know it's probably mean for a lot of teachers. They don't like to hear that. But I had a finance teacher at USC who got everybody's attention on the first day. He walked down, he had a suit on, looked like $1 million. He was an older guy, and he didn't look like a professor. And he said, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'm a multimillionaire. I own several companies. I've been making money for a long time. I will teach you how to get rich. If that's what you want to do, I'll teach you how to get rich. I've done it. I know how to do it. I have this job at USC. It's a part-time job. He says, I do this because I get health care and I love it. This is like the most fun for me, but I don't need this job. And after that, I was like, this is somebody I'm going to listen to because he had some worldly experience where everybody else that was down there telling me about how the world works, I kind of had questions. I thought, well, if the world works this way, then why aren't you out in it? You know, if you're here scared, sequestered in this university environment where nothing affects you. Like if you're really going to teach me how to handle the world, like shouldn't you have been out there handling the world? I felt it was I didn't feel like I had a lot of respect for the professors, but if you get somebody who's done it, who knows how to do it, and has a track record, boy, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to not listen to a guy like that. You mentioned in this book, one of the cycles is entrepreneurial, right? You basically say, well, one's entrepreneur and one's investor. I don't know, I would imagine the Venn diagram interlocks quite a bit on those two, but what's that? When are you ready to move into the cycle of being the entrepreneur or being an investor, and who's the one who's teaching you what a good investment is and what to look for?
Well, that's certainly one thing that you will not learn in college. They probably exist, but I don't know where. Is there a college course on investing, or speculating, or for that matter, what's the difference between that and saving or gambling, which is what a lot of people confuse speculating and investing with. So these things don't even exist in college. You have to learn it by the school of hard knocks. So what we try to do by getting you to read the right kind of texts to know what's important in allocating your money, because the end phenomenon of doing 4 years of the preparation is that instead of winding up 6 figures in debt, you should actually wind up not just with a lot of high-paying useful skills, but with a bunch of money in the bank. This is one thing that, talking about investing and being an entrepreneur and so forth, one way to keep yourself on track that we insist on in a preparation, and it's an additional valuable, highly valuable skill that few people have, is to do a daily blog, or where you analyze what you've done, exactly what you've learned. And the only way you can be sure about it is by putting it on paper. It becomes real when you can see it there. So by doing so, you'll gradually learn the skill of writing. You'll improve your results because you're forced to analyze how you spent your day and what you learned. But also, by putting your blog on Substack, which anybody can do if they have something worthwhile to say, or even if they don't, frankly, you'll introduce yourself to other people out there. Since Maxim has been taking the preparation, he's been posting on Substack and asks people, as Substack does, it's free, but if you want to send me $50 a year for whatever reasons. So he's building a significant outside income and getting to know a lot of people who are getting to know him. Yep. That will introduce him to further connections, further opportunities. And he's got something interesting to say on Substack because of the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
Like one thing he's done, one of the cycles, is learning to sail. And so how did he learn to sail? He barely been on a sailboat ever. So what did he do? He flew to the Falkland Islands and took a sailing course, which took him around Cape Horn, which is some of the most adventurous sailing in the world.
Yeah.
And back. So now he's a competent sailing boat crewman, familiar with the ocean and so forth. Well, that's another feather in his cap. And, he talked about that on his Substack. A lot of people found it very interesting. I want to read more. What's this kid doing? What's this kid going to do next? I told him, now that you're doing this, I think you're the luckiest kid in the world. Instead of going off to college like millions of other little robots, you're distinguishing yourself to be something very special and important and different.
It really is important. And the relationship that the general public has to the university system these days has changed. I think if ever there was a time to reevaluate your relationship with what you consider education, boy, I mean, this is the time. College is too expensive. Professors are low quality. They're stuck there, tenure, which means they can, I don't know, indulge any sort of wild fantasy that they have without the threat of being removed, indoctrination.
Most of them are Marxist-oriented.
Yeah.
It's in the water. Educated, all their buddy professors are all think the same way. Yeah. So it's, in fact, college, I said way back when, that it was a misallocation of time and money. And then later I thought, no, it's a waste of time and money. No, it's worse than that. It's an actual detriment to your future.
Yeah, well, but people go to college. They have this impression that college is going to be fun. We're going to party. We're going to do all this stuff. But
that's true. You do.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably learned more doing that than anything else. But you guys didn't leave that out in the book. Do fun shit. That's part of it. That is a requirement. You are required to do fun shit in each of these cycles. That is what it's called.
That's absolutely right.
It's called do fun shit. And in this
all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So you're
absolutely. And this is a great way to get people to recognize. And it's one thing. If you can't enjoy your life, what's the point of living it? This is how do you what was Maxim doing for fun shit when he was learning to be a chef or a builder or a welder or a fighter or a sailor or a farmer or an entrepreneur? I mean, it all sounds fun to me, but what do they have you doing? Go out with people and I don't know. How do you do fun shit when you're a builder?
Well, one thing that Max has done is learn to play chess. Now, some people might say, well, a lot of people learn how to play chess. Well, moving the pieces takes you half an hour to an hour to learn to move them all properly. Big deal. Everybody can do that. But he's taken it seriously and has moved his ranking up. So now he's a competent and serious chess player. Does everybody find chess to be fun? Well, I don't know. I always found it to be fun. When I was in high school, on Saturday afternoons, a bunch of us would go to a classroom and we'd all play chess because it was fun. I went to a boarding school for high school, so
yeah, me too. Whereabouts? Where were you? East Coast?
No, I went to a place called Marmion Military Academy. It was a 4-year boarding military academy west of Chicago. How about you?
I went to a school called Webb, which is a 4-year boarding school in Claremont, California.
Well, how was it?
I loved it. It was the best 4 years of my life, actually. And that's kind of the problem, is because I came from that where I had dorm rooms. You move away when you're 13. I'm living, so you have the dorm rooms for 4 years. And then by the time you get to college, you've done that. I'm not dying to get into the dorms or anything. I'm trying to get away from that because the bar was set relatively high for me. I really had a great relationship with the people at my school. I loved it. It was a great place. I have good memories of that. And I was surrounded by like-minded people who were off the charts smart. I mean, just scientific freaks. A girl who's English was her third language, getting a perfect score on the SAT verbal. I mean, it's just crazy things like that. So I learned that there are some very intelligent people out there. I got a good mix from all over the country, all over the world, I should say, because people came from Saudi Arabia, because all the Aramco kids that can't go to school there in 10th grade come to the U.S. for boarding school. So I got a good mix from that. I went into college thinking, oh, it's going to be just like high school. I was disappointed. I did not have a great college experience. I didn't love it. I would, in retrospect, I would do that part differently, but I wouldn't change my high school. I enjoyed that.
That's interesting because although I went to a military boarding school, there were a lot of them back then. There are very, very few of them left anymore. And I have mixed feelings about that because one of the good things about going to a military high school is that I got the idea that I wanted to go to West Point out of my head. That would have been a mistake.
Yep.
So been there, done that kind of. I knew the drill. So yeah, and it was the same thing I learned from an academic point of view, much more in high school than I did in college. And I think that's fairly universal for people, oddly enough.
Yeah. You mentioned in the book the need to find a patron, somebody who can guide a person, help them out, maybe financially. What's the role of a patron for somebody young coming up? I found in my experience that when you meet with successful people, someone like you, a successful person who's been there and done that they actually kind of want to tell you how they did. They're actually very you'd be surprised how enthusiastic they are about imparting their knowledge of how they did it, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. When you get to successful people, they want to talk about why they got successful because they know how to do it. And frankly, those are the people you should be listening to. What is the role of the patron in this preparation?
Yeah, this is perhaps understudied in the U.S. because a lot of people talk about, well, get a mentor, somebody who's older, wiser, richer, that will kind of help guide you along the way. But wait a minute. What's in it for the mentor other than good karma? And that's all, just feeling like he's doing a good thing and helping somebody. A mentor is fine, but it's a one-way street. And there's got to be a two-way flow if a relationship's going to last. Patron-client is a relationship that started in ancient Rome, where you'd find somebody who was wealthy, knew more, done more, et cetera, and what you'd try to do is become his client, because why should he mess around with you? There are thousands of people under him. So in order to become the client of a patron, you actually have to qualify yourself to make yourself worthwhile the patron dealing with. And at that point, you do things for the patron. Maybe you're a gopher, maybe you're a researcher, maybe you're almost anything. You make yourself useful, not necessarily on a formal quid pro quo paid basis, but there's a difference. There's a two-way flow where you're of use to the patron, and the patron will definitely be of use to you. And I feel this is a better way to look at it than searching for a mentor that'll give you something in exchange for what?
Well, where do you find them? I mean, how do you, what's the best kind of patron to get? Is this somebody who's like a family friend? Is this somebody, is this somebody that you've read an article about and you say, I gotta meet this guy? This seems like, what is that? That seems like it's going to be a little different for everybody, I suppose, but in an ideal...
It's one of those things where there are many paths up the mountain. And maybe you read an article about somebody and you introduce yourself to them and say, look, I'm available. I'd like to work. What can I do for you? I'm not looking for a job. And invite them out to lunch, something like that. Mm-hmm. You want to meet as young as you can, as many people that you can that are at a stage or two or three or four or five stages above you. Not just hang around with your buddies drinking beer and chasing girls. That's fine. You can do that too. But you should be looking for people that could possibly be patrons as well, that you can help, and therefore they will help you.
Yeah. Well, if you had to change some of these, I mean, I feel like these 16 cycles, some of them probably permanent ones that you need an investor, entrepreneur, things like that. But maybe you don't want to be a fighter. Maybe that's not your thing. But you could incorporate something else in here. I get the feeling that
maybe there are basics. And I think that historically, one of the differences between a slave or a serf and a free man was the ability to defend yourself. So I think that perhaps if we were going to make a permanent core, I think I would keep learning to be a fighter.
Yeah.
Not that you want to get into fights.
No.
Contrary, you want to avoid it, or you want. But it's a skill. Look, talk about fun things, okay? That relate to this. Guns. I think guns are a lot of fun. I have a lot of guns. I've always played with them. That's kind of a do fun shit type of thing.
Yeah.
Is to take some firearms courses and become competent in that.
Absolutely.
Is there an economic immediate reward? No, of course not. But it's a valuable skill.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I cut you off, but I was just thinking about it.
I was just wondering if there were any of the cycles that there are more options, more ideas that didn't make it in the book that maybe you go, oh, if we were doing 20 cycles instead of 16, we would have added these 4. But anything else that maybe gets left on the cutting room floor is no question about it, because there are hundreds of valuable, worthwhile things that you could do. So our choice for the 16 cycles was, there's just not time in life to do everything that you need to do, want to do, should do, quite frankly. So we were somewhat arbitrary. It's just a question of how much of a bumblebee you are, how much energy you have, how much discipline you have, quite frankly. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting stuff that you can learn, and maybe we'll come up with a second edition with more suggestions of things that fit in there. Because one thing that's that is that we're in the midst of what seems to be an industrial revolution, where people have learned skills in the past and are finding that those skills are not of much value anymore. Like learning to program a computer seemed like a way to the top only a generation ago. Yeah.
But now computers can be programmed by AI, and AI is changing a lot of things. So there are a lot of people that have degrees and have invested their life in something and are finding that, well, it's like in the first industrial revolution. What they were doing is no longer economic. They had to start in the middle of life from the bottom and learn something new. So what we're trying to do here is give you the grounding to get one step ahead of everybody else who's, let me put it this way. Most people today think of college as a step on the ladder. I advance, get my degree, get a job, get a management job, get a higher management. I don't like the idea of climbing a ladder because there's a tendency to try to pull down the guy ahead of you to take his place. And meanwhile, there's people lower on the ladder that are trying to pull you down. I don't like that at all. We use the analogy of a spider web, where the web goes off in many directions, and the spider is capable of going to this part of the web if that's what's necessary or where the action is, or going to this part of the web. He's not competing with other spiders, in other words.
Right.
So that's the methodology, the value system we're trying to inculcate in this book. And tell people how to do it, which is important. Because, when you're out of high school, you're lost. You really don't know which way is up. So the point of this book is to hold you by the hand. And the 16 cycles that we offer, they can be broadened a lot. You can put your own cycle in there. It doesn't have to be our cycles. We think they're good, but there's lots and lots of others.
Yeah. I think they're good. I think that if somebody went through this program, they'd be unstoppable. They would. The irony would be, when you started the program, you'd think, I could get hired for any job wherever I wanted for the rest of my life. And by the time you got done, you'd never want to work for anybody again, right?
Precisely. That's exactly right, Charlie. I'm just wondering, of the people that read this book, the young men that read it, how many will actually do this? I know that when I was in high school, if somebody had introduced me to the concepts in this book, I would have been all over it. But wait, the problem is, when you're a high school kid, not only don't you have any skills, but you don't have any money either.
Right.
So, even if you go to college and you can borrow the money, how are you going to get the money to finance some of these things? Well, you could start off with, like Bax did, with something like being an EMT, and then $600 a day, and so forth. Yeah, that's good. But I think your parents or grandparents, maybe better grandparents, will be willing to give you a leg up, finance you, get you on the road, as long as you're self-disciplined enough to stay on the road. And of course, that's the value of doing your Substack, where you hold yourself to account by writing it down every day. Because if you get your parents or your grandparents to foster you in this, hey, they want to know that you're doing something, not just sitting in a basement playing video games all day.
No exaggeration. It's the best book I bought in a long, long time. It's not because it's actionable information. It's not just some concepts about what you might want to do. You've already put one person through the preparation. It's laid out here. There's every bit of information, QR codes to get you to find out the course that you want to listen to, or the place that you need to go. Here's the Anchor course QR code. And then in the very back, it's just page after page of BA law classes. Here's contract law, from trust to promise to contract. It's from Harvard. Here's the QR code. You scan this, you pull it up. Now you've got a course in contract law from Harvard. Holy moly. I mean, this is...
Oh, it's interesting stuff in addition to being really, really valuable.
Yep.
And there's things that we cover in there, like you should be taking some courses in art appreciation. There's people that get degrees in art appreciation, which are basically bullshit degrees. Looking at pictures and having the teacher tell you about it. It's of no practical value. I mean, it's aesthetic. It's wonderful. That's why we have a section in there where you should take some art appreciation courses. You should listen to great classical music. I'm not sure kids do that anymore, frankly. Well, they should. So we guide them in that direction too.
Well, it's a book that everybody should take a look at for sure. If you've got kids who are in high school, or you're thinking about, or maybe they're younger and you just understand where the education system is going, this is a must. Thepreparation.com, is that the best place to that's a place to get information about it, right?
Yeah. You can go to thepreparation.com, but you should just buy the book. It's only $30, so it's nothing. On Amazon. Everything's on Amazon, of course.
Yeah. And as soon as I got the book, I bought another copy for my business partners in Las Vegas, because they have two boys who are early high school age, playing hockey, playing travel hockey, really good at that. And the parents, my partners, are brilliant, and they see the world the way we see the world, and they understand that the schools aren't what they're supposed to be. So I sent them this book and I said, it's coming. And then they sent me a picture when they got it out of the mail. So I strongly recommend this book to anybody, well, really to anybody who's interested in it. But if you have kids in this age range, it's a must. Thepreparation.com, go to Amazon.com. Doug, where's the best place for people to find you to get Crisis Investing and International Man and all the stuff that you're working on?
Well, our fourth novel, I've done 3 novels tracking the history of Charles Smith from being a speculator to a drug lord to an assassin. His next novel, he's going to be a terrorist. I've got a lot of opinions on that as a method of warfare. So that's one thing. Those novels are on Amazon under my name. You should go to internationalman.com, where we have really good articles. They're all free every day on everything. Some great writers, including myself. I write an article for them every Wednesday. Matt Smith and I do a podcast once or twice a week on YouTube. So I think it's a decent podcast.
It is a decent podcast. I watch it all the time. As a matter of fact, it's really good. It's really good. I can listen to you guys chit-chatting about stuff while I'm working on other things. I don't have to necessarily just watch it and stare at you. I can hear you guys. You get into some real fascinating economic conversations. I would recommend Crisis Investing. Obviously, International Man. I republish International Man articles all the time at Activist Posts. So of course, I'm on your site all the time. So I know that it's great. Maybe those. You can either go to International Man, check it out there, or you can go to Activist Post and you'll catch some of the articles there, either yours or Dave Stockman's or Nick Giambruno or whoever is writing. Fantastic work. You guys do great stuff over there.
Yeah, Chris McIntosh is a really great investor and speculator, and also a writer about. He's there every week too. So, yeah, that's a good. The trouble is that we're such a small portion of society. We're like a rounding error, quite frankly. So
yeah, I guess we are.
We're never going to get, or unlikely, I'd say, to get the kind of audience that Patterson or Stephen King or these guys get for writing stuff. But we're not writing for the masses. We're listening. We're writing for people that have ears that want to hear, that have eyes that can see. Yeah. But I feel it's a good karma thing.
Yeah.
So
it's been, I appreciate you coming back on. That's Doug Casey, everybody. Go check out his outstanding work. Get The Preparation. I'm telling you right now, you can take this. You will not be sorry for getting that. If you want to connect with me, you can go to macroaggressions.io for everything that we're doing and activistpost.com. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.